So we just one last row at this side, so we yes, do it. Under your right hand.
I needed to make sure it was coming. What does beauty mean to you? Beauty for me is not the facial aspect as we see, but the way the person carries himself, relates with others, and then sort of emotional, not to say ability, balance oneself emotional. That's what I see.
Does anyone have any other philosophical perception of beauty? Anyone wants to add to this? Beauty is purity for me. Beauty is purity. Beauty is innocence. Yes. So thank you so much, Kofi. Anyone here who's interested in any of these two, because I have them in 15 different thematic areas. And then you can contact me if you are interested at any point in time to explore my two goals of engaging tools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Selina. I just realized something in the throw of the ball. You realize something that when Mr. Inko took the ball, directly behind him he served. And then across the side he came. Even at their corner, it was Munchedi in the front. And then let's take our minds to distribution of education resources. Then we went across to this side. Across to this side, even the man who was going to him says he was not sure it was coming to him, because it was always here. So when you hear the discussions around education resources, this is how sometimes you need to think about. Sometimes for the convenience of the one sharing, it will go to the next person just there. And so if you are sitting in another area and you are not calling for it, another person will be ready quick. And it happens a lot in the NGO and CSO sector. Ghana especially, we delay in burning the money. By the time we'll be sitting on the money, Nigeria is already burning the money. So let's think about it when we are thinking about financing education. The next thing we'll be doing is actually to quickly go to our next presentation. That will be done by Mr. Kofi Asari. He will be looking at rethinking TVET financing for quality and equity.
Thank you, Jeff. Please, those who are back, kindly come forward, because the many chairs are not meant for anyone. They are just here. We just have many chairs here, more than the number we invited. So please, just come forward. No one is going to sit there. My little brother runs a construction firm. Last year, I normally get requests from technical school graduates looking for jobs. Last year, I recommended 2 technical school boys, fresh graduates, one from St. Paul's, to him. And then he engaged the 2. The first guy did electricals. The first feedback I had from my brother was that the guy couldn't fix a common socket. That was last year. Couldn't fix a common electrical socket. Meanwhile, the other electrician, who was an apprentice of EFO Cosmos' apprentices, could fix sockets. So this was my little brother complaining to me about one of the 2 I brought. It kept me thinking about what people have been saying, that the quality of skills training in this country is being diluted. Not just because it is now free, but because it is underfunded. And that if you want the quality one, you have to go to the informal sector. But why should it be so? And so we want to find out how financing is impacting on the quality of skills development in this country. And I want to acknowledge the support of ActionAid and Oxfam in undertaking all the presentations we are making. This particularly was supported by ActionAid. We all know that as a country, second cycle education is prioritized. Every year, we now produce 500,000 graduates from our second cycle institutions. It's by far one of the highest on the continent. Of this 500,000, only 10% are pursuing TVET-related programs. We are all aware that unemployment is a key challenge facing our youth. And so making progress with unemployment means ensuring that a significant quantum of second cycle graduates we churn out every year have skills to at least enter the world of work at the elementary level if they are unable to go to tertiary. Now this 500,000 you are seeing there, last year only 170K went to tertiary. Last year only 170K went to tertiary. So it tells you that about 330 could not go to tertiary. Just to give you an idea about what it means when you are training 500,000 second cycle graduates and only 10% are doing skills-oriented programs. Now, we acknowledge that some progress has been made. In 2020, prior to free TVET, it was only 6% of our second cycle students pursuing TVET. And now it has increased to 10%. But we at Edward don't see the increase as any achievement, in the sense that the reason why it moved from 6 to 10 was simply by 2020 only 47 technical institutes were under the Ministry of Education, but now we have about 261. The difference came from other ministries, 12 other ministries: Ministry of Employment, Social Welfare, etc., Agric. So 12 other ministries brought their TVET institutions under them to the Ministry of Education after the pre-tertiary education law was passed, establishing the TVET service. So we just brought existing enrollment to add to our numbers. That's all. Nothing happened. And if you look at the pace, it means that we are not making good progress in increasing the participation of young people in TVET, especially at that level. There's a global standard in Europe and in Southeastern Asia. In all countries where free senior high school exists, at least 40% of the students are TVET students. We are at 10. Now, let's look at how financing could be driving some of this inequitable access and quality deficits. Across the continent, we see that governments make various commitments to TVET. We select a couple of countries and look at how they are contributing to TVET by way of budgetary. Cote d'Ivoire is doing about 8%, together with Niger. We see Rwanda doing about 7%, Ethiopia doing about 5%, and Ghana is doing 2%. So we see that the attention we accord TVET is not manifesting sufficiently in the budgetary attention we accord TVET. Now let's look at this. This gives us an idea about the TVET financing trend in this country for the past, from 2027 to 2022. This is expenditure, not budgetary. You see that in the past 6 years, between 2022 and 2017, the average expenditure on TVET was 2.4%. Okay, and then, but we are seeing that the expenditure curve is erratic. In some years, we are doing 2.2 in 2017, and then in 2018 we come to 1.6, and then in 2019 we do 2.3, and then we move all the way to the highest for 4.0, and then we come to 2022. We are doing just around 1.9. So the average for this whole period is just around 2.4%, 2.5%. What we should note is that we are not consistent in funding TVET, and it is not reflecting as an expenditure priority of the government of Ghana. This year's budget, about 2.3, if you do the budget itself, about 2.3, 2.4% is going to TVET. That's low, excluding GET Fund. GET Fund hasn't been appropriated yet. So that's this year's budget, 2025 budget. Now this is not expenditure, but this is budget. It can increase, it can decrease. But look at how we decided to share the education cake among the various levels. The highest is going to management. That's fine. Management is where all the agencies here, the CEA, GES, everybody is there. That's how they be paid and managed. That's fine. But look at the thematic areas. Basic is getting 24. Senior high school is getting 10.5%. And then TVET is getting 2.6%. Non-formal is getting 0.5. That's the special complementary education. And then special education is getting 0.1. So you see that TVET is not yet receiving any part of place, I mean, when it gets to allocation of resources, even in the 2026 budget. But let's look at how these funding deficits are affecting, first, the quality of TVET training. Because for me, the most important thing, the most important conversation we should have should be the quality of TVET graduates we are producing. Because if we spend money and produce graduates and they are unemployable, then we have wasted money. I know TVET graduates who are back into some of this Obatampa Ghana cares, this plenty interventions, 1 million coders, this, you know, those many hanging trainings. They finish school and then they are back to do that. It means that they didn't achieve the competencies they are supposed to attain there. Because no one goes to secondary school, does TVET, and comes back to do skills, I mean, proficiency level training. That's why the conversation about training standards and the quality of skills training must take place. And it must take place now. Now, globally, one way in determining how TVET training is skills rich is by comparing how much a country spends on general secondary education with how much a country spends on TVET. We all agree that general secondary education is less practical and TVET is more practical. And so that difference between how much we spend on general secondary and TVET is one of the yardsticks we use. We find a situation where Ghana's TVET system is modeled much more around a German system, which requires school-based training and then some level of industry-based practical learning. Okay. And so in Germany, the cost of general secondary education is 25% less. Or let me put it this way, TVET costs 25% more to administer compared to general secondary education in Germany. In Austria, TVET costs 22% more compared to general secondary education. I'm talking about per unit per year. In Denmark, it costs 24% more. In Norway, 22% more. In Ghana, it costs only 11% more. So it tells us that the practical component is very low. Very low. That's one way of looking at how skills rich or how practical rich your TVET system is. Now, we set out to find out what is required to do TVET practicals in our TVIs, our technical education institutions. What is required versus what is available to undertake practical training. Because the discussion is that the more practical oriented TVET is, the higher the quality of skills likely to be transferred to learners. And so we set out to do a costing of the materials and supplies required to undertake practical learning in our TVIs. We categorize the programs being run by Ghana TVET Service into 3. Category 1 was the high level trades. I'm talking about those that it costs much more to do practicals. Okay, we normally call it practicals, right? So I'll be using practicals for this. And then we found a group of trades where the cost of practicals is mid-level. It's not too high, it's not too low. And those are the trades including plumbing, electricals, carpentry, fashion, leatherwork, agric, refrigeration, etc. That's mid-level. And then we have a third category of trades. When I say trades, I mean the programs where the cost of practical work is lower compared to the other two. And that's the region of, the category of painting, graphic designing, building construction, etc. That's where you require less amount of money to do practicals. Okay. Now, we went ahead to cost. Now, the high category is catering and welding. For welding, many aspects of welding includes buying expensive metal pipes, to learn welding, especially including oil and gas and related skills that need to be acquired. So that's quite expensive. And then catering. For catering, those who haven't been to catering school before, if we say practicals, I'll use catering for an example. Practicals in a catering session, in a catering school means that, or under a catering program means that you are doing desserts. You are doing one continental meal and then one local meal on a Friday. So if Friday is practical day, that day you do one local meal, one continental meal, and then one dessert. Every Friday. That's that practical work. So that's why it's expensive. Now it costs 9,000 cedis to fund a practical session, one practical session in catering. And then it costs 6,000 cedis to fund one practical session in these streets, plumbing, electric, etc. And it costs 4,000 to do same in the low ones. Now, our CBT that we are running in our schools, okay, the pedagogy requires that at least there are 20 practical sessions in an entire academic year, 10 a semester, 20. Okay. Jeff, come and take your thing away from here. What is happening in our technical schools is that government is only able to provide 413 Ghana cedis a year for practicals and practical related work. Now, this 413 Ghana cedis you are seeing there includes or comprises the cost of buying a technical drawing board, and then also it includes the cost of buying some basic equipment. But in terms of recurrent cost, the money for practicals in this allocation is 33 cedis. It's 16.5 cedis for semester 1, 16.5 cedis for semester 2. So 33 cedis for the whole year. So if we put together what government is providing, this is what is required to do proper practical training for an academic year. This is what we have. The line there is what government is providing. And then between the line here, all the way here, is the financing gap for the respective trades. And so we have a situation where about 94% of practical learning in TVET is unfunded. Government is funding just about 6%. As a result of government funding only 6%, average there's a financing gap of 6,500. So because government is unable to fund it, what happens is that every year in our technical schools, we are only able to do 6 practical sessions in a year instead of 20. And even for the 6, for catering, they won't be doing the 3 courses I mentioned, sometimes only 1 course. And listen to this. Beyond this, within the 6, you go to a particular technical institute and there are about 60 in a class. Because CBT requires that the class size should be about 15, maximum 20. Ideally, if you are following the pedagogical imperatives, you have to have 3 different sessions for practicals. But within this constraint, demonstration will be done for the entire class. Practicals, entire class, 60. So the class size is not supporting quality learning, apart from the reduction in the number of practical work. So if you are also used to technical schools and how to do their things, before any practical work, there's something called demonstration. Demonstration is where the teacher will teach you how to do the food, teach you how to weld. Whatever a teacher teaches you, demonstration. Then the next day, you will come and do the practicals. You come and show what you have learned. That demonstration, the teacher cannot demonstrate how to do that particular thing to 60 people. They will not see. You are welding. 60 cannot see. And so ideally, it should be broken down to at least 3 different groups. But because of the limited funding, it is not possible. So learning is affected negatively. And very, very, very significantly. As a result of what I've explained, by way of funding deficits in practical learning at TVET institutions, we have a TVET, we have a system which is theory rich. 70% of our TVET training is now theory. 30% is practicals. But CBT requires that it should be about 80% practicals and 20% theory. The outcome is that we are having many unemployable TVET graduates because they have very low skills competencies. This is what industry said. Industry said somewhere. Industry said here that this is what industry said. Industry, in a survey conducted by EduWatch and ACET, industry was asked, what are the 4 challenges that you face in recruiting TVET graduates? The first challenge, up to 80, was practical training gap. What we are discussing will definitely manifest in a practical training gap because people will complete school, they won't have any practical skills. And when you have this, it means that you're not likely to be employed even though you have completed TVET. That's the situation we find ourselves in. I move to infrastructure. The funding gap we are discussing also has negative implications on infrastructure, which directly impacts negatively on equitable access. This table represents the infrastructure gap in our 261 technical and vocational institutions. Across the regions, we need about 206,000 student desks in our TVET institutions. We need 116,000 dormitory beds. We need 25,000 dining tables, and we need 33,000 dining benches. If you go to Northeast, of the 3 TVET institutions there, none of them has a dining hall. Go to Northeast, they eat under trees. None of them has a dining hall. Not to talk about dining furniture. And so it becomes difficult for students to move into boarding schools in that area because the boarding schools are not boarding enough. But those are the only 3 TVET institutions in those regions, like Northeast. There's one in Yagaba. You go there, you see that there's nothing there. Okay. Now we look again at the furniture analysis, and we see that the regions heavily impacted by the furniture deficits are the Northeast region, followed by Central, Western North, and Upper East. So that's Northeast right there. So you see the yellow line is dining bench, the orange line is desks, dormitory beds is blue, and then the dining table is green. If you look at Northeast, in terms of proportional deficits, Northeast is having this line, the tall line. That's Northeast here. So when it comes to, if you look at it carefully, you realize that when it comes to the green and the yellow line, which is dining table and dining benches, they are at 100%. It means that they don't have one dining table or one dining bench. They are 100% the 2. So this is how we are constricting equitable access by underfunding technical and vocational education infrastructure.